Here we go, guys. So, yesterday something quite big happened. DBG randomly reacted to one of my videos. I didn't know it was going to happen. It was so awesome to see. He did drop me a message saying it happened, and I noticed my sub count started going up. So, it was a really big deal, guys. First and foremost, I want to say thank you to DBG for doing this. He doesn't get enough credit for how much he does for, like, you know, YouTubers who are basically smaller than him, whether it's, you know, someone on 1,000 subs or 50,000 subs. DBG always goes out of his way to work with, collab, and give shine to up-and-coming creators. It doesn't get enough credit for it because I think he does it probably more than anyone else in the community. So, first of all, big shout out to DBG. I did say at the start of that video that my goal was to get to 1,100 subs by the end of the year. We were just under 20 away from it. We've now passed that goal by 35 subs. So thank you to him and thank you to all of you for subbing and helping us reach that goal. It's a huge, huge thing. But I couldn't let DBG do this video without reacting to it. He had some interesting takes on some of the stuff I said. So let me react to what, you know, let me react to his reaction. Let's see how we get on. Let's get on to it. First card is Amethyst.
Memorable.
You know, you had the Trey Burke-based Pro 2.
Definitely not very.
That was being used amongst the meta of diamonds and pink diamonds. And
I
don't think there's a huge difference.
Memorable though, was he? He was good.
He could compete. He really could. He might be right. He might be right on that one.
Okay.
He might move up. I think if he maybe came later in the list.
Amethyst and legendary. Not quite game defining because he was only legendary for like a week, but legendary.
Houston is next. I mean, this is DBG specific, right? And what I tried to do with this tier list is avoid any specifics. Like, Utah wasn't on the list. And Larry Johnson, who's my favourite card, wasn't on the list because it's like, it's about that specific person. To him, Allen Houston is game defining. There's no two ways about it. But I think, generally speaking, he was extremely memorable. I think that's probably fair where I put him. I'm going to put him in extremely memorable just because of how OP he was. He was the first real kind of elite shooting card in the game outside of
He was the reason I was the best player in the world for the first week.
That's true.
He was the defining player of week 1 DBG.
Yeah.
Unlimited reward. But he started to define.
But DBG was in a league of his own in that first week. I wonder what would have happened if they never changed the shooting mechanics. Would DBG be 250k richer right now? Probably is the answer. Probably is the answer.
In the meta, he was the first card that really defined the meta.
He defined week 1 DBG.
Next up, we've got Diamond AK. I never ran this card, but I ran into.
Not memorable because he's a retro card and he was way better the first time around.
That's true, but he was used a lot.
3 to 4 months people had this diamond in their lineup. I'm going to put him in memorable.
Yeah, he's a retro.
By the later AKs, but people forget how OP he was for the time.
He was good.
I mean, people ran it for a long time.
Bailey Howell, the Amethyst, again, another early.
I'd put him in either extremely memorable or legendary just because he was this random white dude in the back of the backpacks, and 2K made him DeMar DeRozan. So I think just for that reason, like, he should be either in legendary or extremely memorable. You can't have him lower than either. That was serious.
Card in the game.
I agree with that, but that's like personal bias for me as well. If I put Bailey where I would it probably be extremely memorable or legendary. But I think generally speaking,
I would put him in.
Right spot.
I would have had.
I also love the Dark Bat.
I would have had. For me, Houston was in game defining. I will never forget that card. But fair enough, if you want to move him to legendary. I'd have Houston legendary, Bailey Howell one ahead. Then I'd probably flip Parker and AK, to be honest.
I think that all moves you can make
game defining. He was game definingly disappointing.
Now,
yeah.
This is the first interesting one because he has to be in one of the.
He was game definingly disappointing.
He's not wrong.
He did define the game in a certain way. He defined the game.
The problem here is there's a lot of cards. I mean, he's already wanted to put Houston and Barron in game defining, but we can only put 10 cards in that tier. So I think he got to about 20 cards by the end of it that he would want to put in that tier. And I had the same problem when I was making the list. It is tough. You can absolutely make the argument that Barron is game defining for how bad that was.
So average. So average.
Down at the last moment, which is something they did time and time again. Shout out to Glitch Reality. Byron Davis was the first card that did that. He is memorable. We all did nothing.
He's game defining.
I'm going to put him in
it's fair.
But there is a real argument for him to be game defining, and I might move him up. Next up, we've got Dark Matter, Warp Reality, Ben Simmons. He is game defining. He was the.
In a year's time, I will remember. He is game defining, but in a year's time, I may have forgot about that Ben Simmons. I will not forget about Byron Davis.
That's like very content creator specific, because I'm probably the same. Because I made content. I've made a lot of content about how bad Byron Davis is. I haven't made much content about Ben Simmons, but wider community, like I said, you know, the 99% of people who don't make content is probably going to remember Ben more, I reckon.
first elite OP point guard that was oversized and an elite jump shot that could do
I agree.
everything.
I agree.
He defined the meta as it is right now.
I agree.
Ben Simmons has to be considered game defining. I was reluctant to put him in here because...
And I just do want to apologize in advance. I am, if at any stage I'm closing my eyes for a few seconds, it's nothing to do with what's going on the screen. It's the fact that sitting so close to two bright screens is really not doing good for my eyes. I thought I was fine. I'm really not. And I still have to watch the Hornets game to make a LaMelo video.
He was down bad this day.
Make one more video after this. So
I literally said to him on the day that I think the Ireland lost the Gaelic football game, Leeds lost 5-1, he had his second jab. I was like, of all the days you chose to react to my video, this was the day.
Today is today's gonna be a rough day, lads. It's gonna be a rough day. But as I always say, videos do not make themselves.
You'll see this as a trend. There are some cards that you might expect in game defining that I'm not going to put in there because I think the similar card was game defining last year, therefore less so this year, right? This is not massively different to the prime Ben Simmons. The reason I've left him in here is because his jump shot is just so elite. He was so much better than the prime one from last year. Next up, we've got Bill Russell. This is a weird one because the community was really hyped at the time, but it
legendary.
dropped off very quickly, the hype. I feel
Legendary.
like when Moses Malone came out, the limited reward.
Legendary.
That is the right call. He should be legendary. He gets moved up later, but yeah, he's right. He's right with this.
This card kind of lost its shine and people started talking about stuff.
Definitely legendary. He was chicken man. He was so good.
Put him in extremely memorable, but
If you're on next gen, he's like legendary. High legendary.
Let's see. Blake Griffin.
Legendary.
This was a real reality check for a lot of people, which led to another card being way hyped. Which was
Game defining, actually. You know what? I'm gonna say game defining for like Blake.
I think we're already at 4 game defining cards. That's where we're at. This list was really tough to do because I was actually doing it live. And then, you know how he went legendary and then game defining. If the legendary thought crossed my mind, I'd put him in that tier. But he's not wrong. Blake was game defining, but I think the 10 cards we had in there by the end of it were more game defining than him.
Last year, the very first center that we got with pro dribble sigs was Dino Raja and Eddie Curry. And they came out on July the 27th. This year, we got pro dribble sig centers in November with this card. So yeah, he was game defining.
The issue was, okay, you could add badges, but you needed to add what at the time was about 200k worth of badges to really make him OP. I mean, he didn't come with clamps, he didn't come with range, didn't come with intimidator, didn't come with interceptor. Steph was better than him, and Steph came out the season before him. So I don't think he can be game defining on that basis.
the following level 40 reward. I think people kind of slept on Steph Curry, and I think people realised, I should have gone and got Steph if I didn't. And then people were like, but it's
Steph's game defining as well.
I'm really fussed about that. People didn't realise how OP this Blake was, guys. He's in one of the top 2. I'm going to put him in legendary for now.
I'd have him top.
Absolutely, he could be game defining.
He'd be in the top with, who would he be with? Houston, Baron Davis, Blake and Simmons. We'd already have 4, yeah, in game defining.
Pink Diamond Ball.
Obviously game defining.
I don't understand
Obviously.
how he was 95 overall. He was the best card in the game running with Dark Matters as a 95 overall. It makes
still-
That would be 5 in game defining already. It's tough, guys. This list was really tough to make. I get what he's saying, because there are so many cards that could be considered. Because I made it a limit of 10, it becomes really hard. But like I said, I think he had 20 in game defining by the end of it, which, he would have had to start moving cards down if it was his list. But he's not wrong. Yeah, Blake Barron easily argued as game defining. Easily. Even Bill Russell, if you really wanted to stretch it. Houston, I think he's gassed a little bit.
Still one of the best cards in the game on next gen.
That's where he goes.
He's still one of the best on next gen.
Invincible Bowl. This is similar to the Ben, right? The token market Bowl last year was very
extremely
similar to
memorable.
I think the next gen memorable puts him over the top. I think that's what separates him from last year because he's so OP on next
I'm fine
gen.
with that.
He's OP on current gen as well, but he is so OP on next gen that he has to go to game defining. 2 Bowls in the top 2.
I think we're
He was the first card that came out that would be considered at the end game the best game in the best card in the game. So I think for that reason alone, like he came out like the other cards in that conversation, the Yals and stuff, like they came out so much later than he did. And I think just the hype around the Gatekeeper, MPJ stuff, all of that stuff. I mean, yeah, he definitely was game defining.
remember
Next up, we've got Amethyst Boris Diaw. He was another card
lowest.
that was,
Only
top
I liked
5
him, but not many people did.
6th.
I don't know about that. I think a lot of people liked him. He was one of my favourite cards for 6 to 8 weeks. I think a lot of people ran Boris. I mean, there wasn't many options at the time. Like Bailey and him were kind of at around the same time. I mean, your options, like the cards we were running at the time were like Ruby Ray Allen and cards like that. I mean, it wasn't like we were sport for choice. So he was pretty OP. I'd say most people were running him, I think, at the time.
8 weeks. Very similar to kind of the Bailey how. I'm going to put them side by side. I think they were my 3 and 4 at one point. Next up, we've got Dark Matter Cade. Now, to me, guys,
Bottom of the bottom. The dude came out on the 30th of June. 30 days past September, April, June. Okay, so there's only 30 days in June. He came out on the 29th of June. He literally came out on the 29th of June.
Remember that date.
You can't put this guy. You will not remember this guy coming into next year. Just like we don't remember the trying to get cards we don't remember that came out late last year. Like no one really remembers like half the NBA's back set.
But we all remember the OP point guard in that set, which was Ben Simmons, who was the best point guard released all year. And I think it's the same for Cade.
From last year.
This is going to be an unpopular opinion. This is the best card in the game. On current gen,
I mean,
it's the
you can
best
make
card
that
in the
argument.
game. He's 6'8". He's a Curry sliding.
Can't put him higher than there. Can't put him higher than there.
He is incredible, and you know, similar to the kind of LaMelo Ball from last year, I think. That's kind of how I see Cade.
Yeah, but LaMelo Ball came out on like the 6th of June. He came out on like the 28th of June.
If those dates are correct, that means he came out 2 days before Cade. 30th of June and 28th of June.
Came out a month earlier. There was still a month of content when LaMelo Ball came out, not a week.
I don't know where to put him. I'm going to put him in extremely memorable.
Yeah, right
Maybe
here,
it's a
correct
bit
here.
Bias, but this is the most fun card I've used all year.
That's correct there.
You could potentially move him down. Let's see how he goes. Next up, we've got Pink Diamond Cam. We all remember this.
Yeah.
I'm going to put him in legendary.
Cause of the cam glitch.
The draft.
It's probably the easiest card to rank, I think, on this list.
The fact that everyone pretty much got this card for so cheap was just such a huge W and such a huge talking moment as the year went on. Emerald took on Cook again, just a limited demon.
For limited, he's in Emerald.
Let's be honest, guys,
Like
he's a Ruby at worst.
middle tier. Middle tier.
Put him in. Put him in very.
Yeah, I don't
memorable.
disagree.
Think
Don't
that's
disagree.
where he
You're right.
Easy one.
We've got another game-defining.
Another
card,
easy one.
Danny Ferry again broke the game, broke all of us.
I mean, this was going to be the one that DBG agreed with the most.
Demon, the first truly elite shot in the game.
He's been saying recently he's still top 5 in the game, this card here, despite the fact the Dark Matter's out. It's hard to argue as well. I mean, he can do everything the Dark Matter can do, pretty much.
It has to be Danny Ferry. Yeah, it has to be game defining.
I agree, Jazz.
Now again, guys, this might surprise you. I'm absolutely.
Here we go. All right, I'm ready for this. Let's go.
Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on.
DBG's like humor is massively underrated, guys.
Need to clean the old glasses, even though they're blue light glasses and they don't actually affect what I can see.
Let's have it.
Game defining?
Yep. I'll stand by it.
He was the first elite point center in the game, and I always say this: the end game truly comes when we get that point center that can do absolutely everything.
This guy could do absolutely everything. Blake.
Let me stop you there, DBG. So, Blake had like a handful of Hoff badges, all of which were basically finishing badges. He didn't have range at all, didn't have clamps at all, didn't have intimidator at all, didn't have interceptor at all. D-Rob had all of those badges on Hall of Fame, except range, which was on gold. To compare those two cards, I just, no. I refuse to accept it. D-Rob was the first center in the game that could do everything. And actually, you know, I picked up Kareem, the radioactive one. D-Rob was still on the bench until basically Invincible Kareem came out. That's how long he was in my team. And D-Rob was available. I think it was available early March. So he was in my squad March till June. Blake wasn't in anyone's squad that long. Not a chance. And D-Rob was doing that in a significantly higher meta.
Everything, guys, this year that was D-Rob. It was.
Freaking Draymond was a point center.
It wasn't 7 foot plus.
He was game defining. Everything we've had since has been a slight step up where he was.
I'm going to put this down to a tough day.
Game for sure.
I'm going to put this down to a tough day for DBG.
Galaxy, Opal, D
Extremely memorable.
No, this was a really important card. Absolutely an argument for game
No,
defining
no.
because he was the first.
No. Come on. Come on.
Card that really got everyone hooked on
That's
XP.
facts. That is
He
facts.
really was.
More people got Wade than got Steph?
100%.
People
It's not even
said
close.
Steph, and by the time they realised it was too.
The amount of people that didn't do Steph, like I'm talking about like content creators as well, like people like Unbeatable Jacob didn't do Steph, IJ Josh didn't do Steph, loads of the community didn't do it. I didn't do it, you know. I think D Wade was that kind of hyped card, that sort of traditionally elite card in 2K that got everyone obsessed with this.
Too late. People didn't want Blake, so they didn't really do it. D Wade got the entire community doing level 40 for the rest of the year. He was that guy.
I got
that's true.
3 level
Is
40s.
that
I
game
regret
defining?
one of them.
Probably.
Yeah,
It
DBG
probably
weren't a fan.
is.
He
I'm
was
gonna
not a
put
fan
it
of level
in
40s. I wasn't by the end of it
I'm
as well.
okay
I
with that.
stopped.
I don't want
I
that.
stopped.
Game defining. Next up, we've got Felipe Lopez. I put him on this list because a lot of people like the card,
Memorable,
a lot of
yeah.
people ran the
That's
card.
fine.
He
We're
was
not gonna
another-
remember
If I'd gone back, I
I
would have put
put him
Markel
in-
Fultz
I
there.
ran into him every other game for about 3 months.
I think he was more
Obviously,
memorable than
popular
Felipe.
card. Wasn't
Limited
popular for
demon.
me, but will be memorable for a lot of
Limited
people.
demon.
Next up, we
Or Rex
got
Chapman,
Gus
maybe.
Williams. We remember how.
Very
How
memorable.
OP
This card was
hard.
insane. This card was
At that time,
insane
He's
when
the
it
only
came out.
person. He ran. He used to glitch the AI. He was so
unstoppable.
fast.
Yeah.
Flash
Somewhere
was.
between extremely memorable and very memorable.
I mean, he completed
flat.
Hall of Fame domination for me on his own.
There's a reason why I nicknamed him Flash. Like, there's a reason why I nicknamed him Flash. He was the fastest. He had 195 speed. He was the fastest player we'd ever seen.
That combo of him and Mo Cheeks.
Jack Barron. Now, this is a tough one for me.
Middle,
Because
middle,
this is
middle.
maybe an unpopular opinion. I don't know. The fact that him and Terry came out at the same time and Terry was the slightly better card kind of overshadowed this Jack Barron. If Terry didn't come out, he would have been here, guys. That's
I actually believe the opposite. I think because Jack
This is
Mario and Terry
interesting.
came out at the same time, one of them was a dentist and one of them was a lawyer, and that we were all playing either triple threat offline for the dentist or triple threat online for the lawyer. The whole question was, who are you going for, the lawyer or the dentist? I think they're a combo deal.
So I don't agree with. There's part of that I agree with. I think the fact that they were both out gave them both more hype. But in terms of just the card itself being OP, I think Jack Barron got lost in the shuffle with Terry. I prefer Jack to Terry. I know I'm on my own. As a card, I prefer Jack Barron to Terry, but I think Terry got so hyped by the community that Jack Barron got lost in the shuffle, and the cards were just as good. Like, I think Ty preferred Jack Barron as well, but just the hype behind Terry, and it was really created by the community, that was. I mean, he was an OP card, but the cards were really similar, and I preferred Barron's jumper.
I think if it was, I think he's probably in Legendary or extremely memorable, but I think if Terry wasn't there, he'd probably just be another Wayne Embry down in like
No, Barron was elite.
down near the bottom.
really where he would have been.
Wayne Embry ain't
Terry
anywhere near the
took
bottom either.
shine off Jack Barron.
I think Terry brought his shine up.
Extremely memorable, I think that's where he ended up, but he was
It's an interesting take. It is. There's definitely some truth to what he's
Next
saying.
up, we've got another limited god, and again, people were running this guy. in their
Very
main squad.
memorable.
This guy
Easy
came
one.
out in a possessed set that had like Pink Diamond Team back in it. And people
That
were-
possessed
He
set
was
was a
the most player
disaster.
in that whole possessed
It was the only good thing that came out of it.
Probably next to that Daquan
He was
Cook.
the best. He was the
But
best. in
For
that
sure, a
set.
memorable card. The next one is a tough one.
I
It's
shouldn't use
Galaxy
face cam
Opal
for this
Hondo.
video.
If you're a current player,
I didn't. I chose not to.
But
Legendary.
the truth is, most of us aren't. A lot of people
No.
didn't get this card. And, you know, shout out to Splash for making this card as legendary.
Unfortunately, 95% of us did not have the 1.5 million
Yeah.
MT need to get the January Messiah that was John Havlicek.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Hondo was Hondo.
I mean, he was the best card in the
January
game
Messiah.
by a mile.
And
By a mile.
He was the best damn card in the game. But, I may not have energy to say this. For the 90% of us, including myself, the budget guys, we never saw Hondo. And I think I only played against Hondo maybe twice.
Yeah, same.
Not a comment.
I don't think I saw him.
So,
I don't think I saw him in game.
because of what he did in the comp scene, you can't put him any lower in the middle, but I think that's probably right.
As it was. But in the grand scheme of things, guys, I think this is...
This is the thing with this. Like, the comp scene is... When you're in it, it seems really big. Like, I'm not a comp player, but I'm kind of in the scene. Like, I know the comp players and, you know, I get on with them well. And I watch them stream and I keep track of all the tournaments and stuff. When you're in the kind of scene, just seems things seem bigger than they are. But that community is actually tiny. Like, looking at the player base when it comes to, like, comp players, there's like 100 or 200 that are legitimately comp out of a 15 million player base. So like, I think when you're in that community, it's really easy to kind of hype something up more than it is to the wider community, if that makes sense.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
I don't think enough people had the card for him to be extremely
Great point.
memorable.
I agree with your logic.
10,000 people watched the 250k. 15 million people download this game.
Hey, there's a lot more than 10,000.
It was slightly more.
Well, I had 10,000.
Yeah.
2K apparently had... I had like 13,000. 2K apparently had 15,000.
I was modding
Let's
that
just say
stream and it was a
10,000
nightmare.
Their viewers review bots.
It was absolute nightmare to mod.
There was about 20k watching that live. I get his point, but there was a lot more than 10k.
To those 10,000
Fair,
people,
fair.
you know how good this card was. John Stockton, the diamond.
Basketball
he was the only
John.
alternative really for Steph.
I got a
He was an
basketball
absolute beast
John.
by the time he came out, I think.
I got a basketball John.
He's not okay, is he?
Extremely memorable for now, but he's
Legendary.
move up.
Move basketball John
Again,
up.
just
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
Move
I think
basketball John up, Jazz.
I've been inclined to agree with him on that.
Everyone was running Stockton.
Yeah, I
So
think
out of it, I might as well be drunk right now.
drunk DBG is my favourite
Next
DBG.
up we've got,
Stockton could be legendary.
Down.
Again,
Bottom.
another limited beast,
Bottom.
but you
He
just
was.
left
Get him
the ball
down.
onto an,
Get him down.
basically
Why?
gives you a chance of winning the
This
game.
guy was his most memorable card ever was either this card or his Holy Trinity card in 2K19, and this card does not belong anywhere near.
He's got to be a top 10 used card this whole year. How many times was Isaac used in Limited? I guarantee if you played Limited this weekend, you still ran into this card.
He does not belong. He will never be remembered in this year because of how good his rubies were in 2K19 and 2K18. Again, 2K18, this card was God. Then he was part of the Holy Trinity in 2K19. So, nah, you will never. No one will ever remember this card in a year time. Get him down to the bottom tier.
I'm going to put him in.
Get him
His argument's valid,
This is better. Get him down.
but you can't argue how much he was used.
Legendary.
He was probably like the card that was used the most. He had the most longevity, I think.
I genuinely thought he would flame me for this. Like, I know Ty is... They kind of have this back and forth, him and Ty on Kawhi, where Ty kind of gasses Kawhi up and DBG goes the other way. But I thought DBG would probably flame me for this. I was surprised by his reaction.
Any card in this game, I don't think
Ferry.
it's Danny Ferry, but it was Kawhi. I just don't know how much people are looking back on that card. I think people have forgotten how
He was a
OP
cone.
he was for the
Don't
time.
put a cone
He's not
in
wrong.
game
Because he was
defining.
just good at
He's not wrong.
everything and
Don't put a
wasn't,
cone in game
elite at
defining.
anything. You could argue his defense. I think he's kind of dropped off people's
I
memories.
agree.
know Ty is fighting quite
One of
hard
those
to keep
two.
his
One of those
guys
two
alive.
spots. I
think he
agree,
goes to
Jazz.
the
I
legendary.
agree.
I
I
think-
agree.
That's surprising.
Next up, we've got Kermit. Again, another TT
Down.
offline reward that people fought for. I'm going to put him in memorable.
Down.
This card was so overhyped.
Deserves to be in the 50, but down.
Yeah. He just about made the 50 as well. And that was only because of how much people gassed him up.
Ruby KPJ.
One
He
of
has
the
to
best
go to
Ruby in the game.
extremely memorable.
Yeah.
Him and one other Ruby are probably guaranteed to be in most people's limited
Nick
lineups
approves.
every
Yeah.
Nick
week
approves.
for this whole year. I would argue there isn't a card I've used more than KPJ, maybe one or two.
He could go in legendary easy,
Limited alone,
KPJ.
He's just been, he defines the whole game mode, that card.
That's true.
Next up, we got Pink Diamond Lonzo. Again, a bit of a 250k
Down.
reference here, but again, he was just such an affordable
I agree.
point guard that was OP. He had good
Most
size,
retro
good
cards
size,
won't be
he had a
remembered
decent
for the
shot.
retro
Once they
card. They'll be
updated
remembered
his
for what
jump
they were in the
That's
original
true.
game.
He's
and
right.
again, a card that is memorable. I don't know how close.
Would have been interesting to see if that AK and those Lonzo, if this was the first versions of those cards, if they weren't retro cards.
Luka.
Tough.
Oh, it's a tough one. I think
Tough.
I think we go
Game defining because of the card
I
art.
think he was the first one.
Because of card art.
With Pro 2,
He's not wrong. He's not wrong. The card art was
all the key-
absolutely
Card art is
incredible.
more than all of
Luka has
that.
to
Get him
be
into
here.
game
He
defining.
also,
I don't think it's the only reason he's in game defining though. He was a game defining card as well, but he's not wrong. The card art is
And the fact
incredible.
2K gave him away for
Incredible
free,
on that set.
everyone used it. So I think he has to go to
Card
game.
It was a one-hit wonder for 2K as well, I think.
Invincible Luka is on this list because he
Get
was
him
the best
down.
ever 40 reward outside of probably Steph. I think
Very
he has to be
memorable.
on this list.
Get him
Again,
down.
A card that people got.
I
know
have
people
him.
that didn't
Get
do
him
XP
down.
all year that did XP when this Luka came out. So he was definitely important. I want to say extremely memorable. I might
I'm
have to
okay with
start
that, I'm
moving
okay
some
with
of these
Yeah, I don't think that's right. He's more memorable than the cards below him.
Malik Sealy, another card that punched above his weight. He's in one of the bottom two tiers, I think. I think people don't really remember him in the way that they should.
Yeah, you're right.
He was very overpowered for the time he came out. Like Jonathan
Budget Kawhi.
Isaac had longevity because he was used in limited throughout the year. Malik kind of fell off a little bit.
Yeah, it's a shame that.
Lonzo.
I wish that card had come out a bit earlier.
Remember, guys, all of these cards
I wish that
are
card had come out a little bit earlier.
Next up, we got Amethyst Matt.
Oh, I love
love
this
them.
card.
Just
Purely by
move
listen,
them
it's
down.
pure bias. I'd put him up here. This
He'd
guy's
be in,
literally
like,
got me on 12
extreme-
runs on his own.
extremely memorable.
I think his card is
bottom.
amazing. You know, he had the
I never
three
played
key
against him.
hostages. You know, as
I'm surprised he said that. I mean, we play on the same server.
About this card is the fact that his picture is Kevin Love and it has not been changed for the whole year.
Amethyst,
I was surprised he said he's never played against him. Like we're on the same server, and he's almost in every limited squad I play.
I think he's been used a lot again in limited. I think we could have used him for 12-0 runs.
Yep. I mean, that card single-handedly got me Petrovic and Ray Allen.
I have to say memorable.
Yeah.
But I really want to put him above that. I'm going to put him in memorable, but I want to put him above that.
It's fine.
Emerald Kabengele, again, the start of the year was the start of the year.
If you have Emerald Kabengele and not Bill Lambier, I'm going to be annoyed.
That's fair. That is fair.
Guys,
that is fair. Lambier was OP for the time.
Bill Lambier was so much better.
Everyone picked him up. Everyone ran him because he was...
Not the stick gods. The stick gods were running Bill Lambier because he was just better in every way.
You know, 3 tokens.
Okay, first of all, stick god, singular. I think you were the only one who could shoot like this. I do make a mistake here. I think I said he's a few tokens, but he was actually a win for a domination game.
The stick.
So
you had to play a game of domination to get him. Do you not remember how bad domination was at the start of the year? Beating it on Hoff.
I mean, to be fair, like, it kind of launched my YouTube career because I got through it so easily by using one move with Gus Williams. So, yeah, it wasn't that. I did it on Hall of Fame as well, but you remember they dropped it down to Superstar later? I completed the whole thing on Hall of Fame before they did that.
Man, the stick gods with Lambier.
He has to be on this list. I'm going to put him at memorable. Next up, we've got Invincible Yao. Guys, this is going to be super controversial.
This gets, like, super interesting here because I was again, I thought you might flame me for this. And I thought a lot of the community would because, generally speaking, everyone has this in game defining. And I was like, you know, am I going to get flamed for moving it down a tier? And then he's like, drop it off the tiers completely.
Commercial. He's the best card in the game. General consensus.
He's the lowest tier. Hear me out, hear me out. He's not as good as Invincible Yao last year. Or Goat Yao last year.
Yeah.
We will remember Sim. We will remember Taco. We will remember Sean Bradley more than we remember this card.
I literally say this in like 1 minute in the video. I don't know about Sean Bradley. I don't know if I remember Sean Bradley more than Yao.
Trust me. There are 3 alternatives. 1 was free and 2 are cheap.
True.
Almost nobody used Yao.
Facts.
Get Yao into bottom tier. He doesn't belong.
I mean, I don't think... I mean, he's still game... He's still game defining. Like, he's close to it because he's the best card in the game. How could you not have the best card in the game in one of the top 2 tiers? I mean, regardless of when he came out, he's still the best card in the game.
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. In terms of just how memorable the cards were, I do not agree with that.
Yeah, this whole thing went the complete opposite to what I thought he'd say.
I would have Lonzo Ball over Yao Ming in terms of how memorable cards are. I'd have Yao literally at the single bottom of this list.
Here's the reason. I think Yao last year was game defining.
Yeah, I need to make the point now.
A duplicate of that card. I don't think it's...
But there's 4 different alternatives that are all budget options this year.
Yeah, I agree.
As game defining as it was last year. I think with Ben, like I said, he has...
He's having a nightmare.
Him up. But this Yao was... I mean, I know the meta's different. We were tweeting last year. Now, you know, everyone's speed bursting on current gen, and you know he moves like a rocket on next gen. But I just don't think he is game defining. I don't think he is.
No, he's not.
I think he's the best card. I think that's fair.
That's fine to argue, but he's not game defining.
Like Taco, Simbula, all these cards.
That's the thing. So we both have reached the same conclusion, which is he shouldn't be in game defining, which I think 95% of the community will disagree with anyway. But I moved him down 1, whereas DBG wants to drop him off almost entirely. It's interesting. It's interesting to me.
I don't think
it's the same logic with 2 different results. It's really interesting.
Mo Bamba, another one of the the
bottom
OP rubies. I think he has to go next to his.
Wendell's better. Wendell's better.
Very memorable there.
Wendell is better, but he's not more memorable. Mo Bamba was run for 6 months.
Nick Anderson. There's a lot of cards.
Like, he was part of the Holy Trinity. This card will be remembered for being the Holy Trinity. Nick Anderson will be more remembered, in my opinion, than Mo Bamba. Because Nick Anderson
was like one of DBG's favourite cards. Like, he's up there with Utah. It's just by chance. There was literally 4 or 5 rubies I was looking at, and I went with Nick Anderson. But knowing that if I'd known DBG was going to react to it, I would have known how that was going to go.
Anderson legit had bells in like people's competitive teams.
He's not wrong.
250.
I could have used here Eric Gordon, Markel Fultz. I was trying to think of like the OP rubies back in the day. I think Nick Anderson was the best of them. It's one of these 2. I'm just going to put him in memorable now because I think he was in a class with a lot of other cards that you could put on that list.
I think it's true.
He was so good. Nick Batum, for me, game defining for most.
If you compare Nick to all the cards above him, apart from it, I think Smush could have gone down. I think he could have gone down. I think all the other cards were used more than him. In very memorable tier.
People probably extremely memorable.
Next up, we got Pink Diamond.
Memorable.
Again, a next gen card. He was OP for the tier he was in. He was, you know, a very
He will be in a year's time. We'll remember Nick Batum. We will not remember this year.
very affordable.
I mean, I don't agree. Batum was hyped up by a handful of content creators. I literally say this in a second in the video. Yao is Yao. I mean, he is. Like I said, we're gonna always remember the best card in the game. I don't see how we'd forget that. And I think Batum was just overhyped.
A good size point guard with a decent shot. He was a good card. Again, I think he was hyped up by a handful of content creators.
Me.
I don't know why the community
Yeah.
that popular.
Yeah.
Next up, we've got Pink Diamond Paul Pierce. Guys, he has to go in here.
Nobody got him though. He was the best player in the game when he came out. Nobody got him.
He's right. He's right.
Like, I think I faced Paul Pierce 3 times ever. Like, I don't think anyone had him.
He's
Like,
right.
Allen Houston will be more memorable than Paul Pierce. Because everyone used Houston to get Paul Pierce.
Yeah,
I'd flip those two.
I think Pierce had bigger
Controversial take.
Bigger
I know
impact
it
because
is.
he was
has
a
to go
reward.
in here. I might have to move him down depending on what we've got coming
He
up.
does get moved down,
He's
by the way.
probably
Yeah,
the
move him down.
least qualified to be in this tier, but right now he has to be. He's the only good unlimited reward we've had since Glenn Rice. This card was available on day 1, guys.
We did get Rudy Gay last year.
Day 1.
We literally had this conversation in a video, me and DBG. Rudy Gay was a lock-in. He was a lock-in, so he wasn't a traditional 12-0 reward. You had to go 12-0 5 times, get 5 different cards to lock in for him. Rudy Gay was definitely better than Pierce and Glenn Rice. But in terms of just an actual 12-0 reward, Pierce was the best reward since Glenn Rice.
He was the best card in the game until Steph Curry came out, and then arguably he was the second best card in the game.
Steph came out 2 weeks into the game.
The fact that he was actually available day 1,
He was available about 4.5 weeks, I think, into the game.
he also defined unlimited as a game mode. It was the first time people experienced it. He has to be. We all remember 250 and 0, you know, from DBG. It was all this card. Defined stick shooting.
No, it was all this card. It was all this card.
He's right. He is right.
And I just swapped him with a slightly better version of him and Paul Pierce.
Defined an era of the game.
I don't- like, Houston definitely got it. He knows better than I do. Obviously, it was his experience. But Houston got him Pierce. But he then did choose to run Pierce over Houston. So, you know, the argument could be made that this is a significantly more important card. But he's not wrong. I'm literally talking about DBG here. So DBG knows better than I do about his experience. So, yeah, if he ranks Houston over Pierce, that's fine. But we also need to remember that DBG was pretty much on an island in terms of being able to shoot the way that he did in this game. We've never seen anything like it and won't see anything like it again.
And was by far the best card in the game for the first 4 or 5 weeks. How can we not put him in game defining? Next up, we've got Diamond Rudy. Very similar
Legendary.
to Nick Seeley, I think. I think Rudy was used a little bit more, though. I do believe that. I'm going to put him in very,
His
very
reaction.
low. He's got a case to be up here. I think, like I said, cards like KPJ, John Stockton, I think these cards had a bit more longevity. than
Basketball
this
John
Rudy.
should be in
It was a
Legendary.
lot of
I don't
fun.
disagree with that.
Houston should be a Legendary and Rudy Fernandez should be in
For a
Legendary.
period of time.
See, this is where it gets tough. Like as I said, we had like 20 cards in game defining already, and then I think we've already got like 15 cards in legendary. Some have to move down, and I don't think Stockton was more legendary than any of the cards that are in there at the moment. But he's definitely the one on that list that could move up, and I think Rudy is definitely the one in this list that could move up. So he's not wrong. He's not wrong.
Next up, we've got another card who's in here for the wrong reasons, which
Oh.
is Galaxy Opal Russell Westbrook. Guys, we spoke about this card on the
I'm going to say is, I don't think he was... I think he sucks, but I don't think
He was a trash can.
he was bad enough. Like, he wasn't like Baron Davis bad.
He was close, very close.
And like we had Ralph Sampson as a bad limited reward before him, so I would go. I think he's like memorable.
I don't think Sampson was hyped. I think Westbrook was really hyped, and that jump shot, and they fixed it 3 weeks later, right? But by the time the card would have been redundant anyway, they fixed it. But it was unacceptable. That jump shot made me want to throw up every time I took a shot with him. I used him once, maybe twice.
Well, I wouldn't put him that high because he wasn't. He was bad, but he wasn't that bad.
He was.
more than any other.
I mean, it's subjective.
How bad this card is.
He was bad.
You know, similar to Baron Davis, he defined.
There was like 10 weeks on the podcast where we literally said nothing else, but this card was bad.
Amazing and just got something hugely underwhelming, which was just
I mean, he was a 6'3" point guard. Like, he was never
really up there with defining.
Maybe I understand that.
That's fair. I mean, yeah. I mean, maybe our expectations were higher than they should have been.
Very memorable.
I'm okay with that.
Again, for the wrong reasons.
I'm okay with that. Yeah, he needs to be a lower. He needs to be low. I agree with that.
Next up, we've got Simbula.
Top.
Guys,
Easy one.
he's going in game defining.
Easy one.
He is, whether you realise it or not, the best budget card that's been released all year. This card right here was $1 million MT last week. This card was 20k.
Yeah.
It's insane how close they are.
This is a skill gap. This is a skill gap, guys, right here. Simbula's the best budget card that's been released all year. Without question, he has to be in game defining.
I mean, I'm trying to get Yao at the moment just so I can run Yao and Simbula, but I don't feel like I need Yao instead of Simbula.
Amethyst, Sleepy Floyd, what amazing memories, guys.
I love that card, but he's the bottom.
You know, I do miss it.
This is so tough.
Recently, and he can still hang. He can still.
When it comes to my fan favourites, like Sleepy Floyd is top 3 from this year. Like, if it was pure bias, he'd be in game defining.
Hang. We lost the game.
I love that card.
Fault, but you know, he was there.
Yeah, everyone did.
This card was another card that kind of really defined badging up cards. He was one of the first cards we started to do that with. I mean,
he came out 3 days before John Stockton.
Yeah.
I'd put him.
But he was 10k.
At the bottom.
Extremely memorable is where Sleepy needs.
He was 10k. Everyone had him.
Next up,
everyone had him.
Got Steph Curry,
game defining.
Absolutely
easy one.
Defining. Defined
Nick
level
agrees.
40 for the whole year.
Easy one.
I'm now very aware that one of these cards needs to move down. I'm not sure who it's going to be.
Yeah.
Pierce.
It might be Paul Pierce.
It's Pierce.
But yeah, Steph has to be a game defining for obvious reasons.
Pierce and D-Rock.
Taco as well.
Yeah, Pierce and D-Rock.
Part of the reason Taco's in this, again, like I said, it's kind of.
I did some of the Taco challenges to get the cards that I wanted. Cam Reddish. No shade, DBG. That's one of the cards I got. I got Terry, I think. I got Eddie Curry. A few of the cards that I wanted, but there was no scenario where I was going to do that. Watching people suffer through the Taco grind was just, it was hilarious.
Just really exciting. The time he came out, the spotlights were super exciting. People really wanted this
I had a mental breakdown doing those spotlights. I legitimately had a mental breakdown.
He has to be game defining.
A lot of people did.
Just the talk of the community for like a month, so he has to be.
It was just before
Taco
that I decided to stop grinding the game, and it couldn't have been timed
enough.
enough.
Tempted to move Bol down
yeah, I'm good with that as well. I'm actually fine with that.
Pierce. He is legendary. I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think that's the right spot for him.
Has to go into game defining.
Yeah.
Another one that caused some breakdowns.
Broke all of us trying to get him. I was very fortunate. I got him in like 30
900 games.
I was modding DBG's stream when Terry popped up. It was so funny because he didn't even notice. Like, he was about to end stream, I think, and he just kind of clicked on the vault, and then he was just talking to the chat. And then Terry was just on the screen behind him for about 10 seconds before he realised.
Race for 250 to get him.
900
was there a more
games.
Spoken about card this year? Is there a more game card this year?
100 games.
No, I don't think there is.
I got him in 30. I was so lucky.
Young, he has to go in the same tier as KPJ. He just has to.
It's crazy to think that KPJ and that young, like, still being running limited today.
Is Yuta in this?
Literally today. Yuta's not in this list. It's two person specific.
Absolutely has to be an extremely memorable. Tony's a tough one. Tony is.
I bring Tony down to the bottom.
I think I'm going to put him.
I don't disagree with that.
Or do I need to move someone up and put him in extremely memorable?
Move Houston up and move him down one.
I might have to. I will. I think I'll move Bill Russell.
That's the right move.
Yeah, I'm good with that. Bill Russell's a good player to move.
Tony goes into extremely memorable. He was elite when he came out, guys. Absolutely elite.
He was. He was so hyped at the time, and he was in people's squads for a long time.
Remembered in the same way this Bill Russell will. So I think that's
good choice. Good call.
Next
I like
up,
that.
we got Pink Diamond, Wayne Embry. The first, amazing GT offline reward. He was so OP for the time he came out, guys. It was.
He really was.
The first card that we really went crazy for trying to get. Before the Terrys and the Dannys.
I mean, people really he was the first card in the vault that people really started to chase.
I've got Wilt on this list, guys. I'm going to put him in memorable, and the reason he's not higher than that is because the reason this card is on this list is that everyone that locked in for him is trying to forget it.
I mean, it was bad.
Guys.
It was so bad.
Within 2 weeks, and he was like a 1.5 million lock-in.
The problem was not many.
Relevant, will be memorable.
The reason why he's not that memorable in a bad way, you can see he's here, is because very few people were dumb enough to lock in for him.
Yeah, he's right. He's right. A lot of people dodged the bullet, but if you did, my goodness.
It's the first time I looked in for, and I've regretted it. Wilt is that phone on steroids. I mean, it's bad. It is bad if you look into that card. He has to be on this list. And this has worked out perfectly because Diamond Zion absolutely is legendary.
That did work out very well.
Because he was so good on current gen and so bad on next gen at the same
time.
time.
Yeah, he's right.
That stayed in my main
he's
team
right.
for the longest this year without question.
He was simultaneously the best and one.
I love that card though.
Current gen there. It really depends if you moved on to next gen early. If you did.
Like I said, if it was like a pure bias list, Zion would be in game defining for me as well. I mean, that guy was in my squad for like 4 or 5 months. Like a lot. He came. People forget how early this card came out and how insane it was for the time.
But he was legendary on next gen because of how bad he was.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Value. But on current gen, which most of the players have been on all year, that Diamond Zion was legendary. Right, guys, I'm really happy with that list.
So anyway, that's the video. Again, I do apologize for...
Shout out to DBG again, guys. That's the whole video. I don't want to start quoting DBG now. I might actually. Maybe we should quote DBG. It's a big deal, guys, that he did that reaction. I really appreciate it. We agreed on like 90% of it, maybe 95. I think the separation was... I think he wanted Houston higher. I wanted D-Rob higher. I think that's probably the biggest disagreement we had. And he wanted Yao quite low down, I think. But other than that, I think we were on a similar wavelength with most things. And these things are so subjective, guys. Yeah, as I said yesterday in the video, drop your kind of reactions below. Let me know what you agreed with, what you disagreed with, where you sit with it all. Again, a huge shout out to DBG for doing this. It's a really big deal what he does for up-and-coming content creators. And I really hope he does get the kind of respect and acknowledgement for doing that. And again, thank you to everyone that subbed since he did this video, because it literally hit our goals for the year. And I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it. That's the whole video, guys. Yeah, let's do a DBG impression to end it out. Please like, comment, and subscribe.